Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. Adam, thank you for coming to Chattanooga to talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the owner-operator and the small fleet section of our industry.
Thank you for having me.
So my first question, just to start off, obviously we've been seeing a lot of small carriers and even some medium and large carriers enter or exit the industry in recent months. I guess if you're talking to a small carrier, they're saying, I'm kind of thinking of getting out. What do you tell them? I guess at what point should an owner-operator exit the current industry, and I guess how do they prevent that kind of situation in the
I mean,
first
that's a
place?
two-part question. Honestly, that from the very beginning, you have to obviously know your operational costs more important than anything else. And understanding your operational costs at the very, very common denominator is the most important factor. It almost takes you back to high school or elementary school when we learned fractions. You always want to drill down to the lowest common denominator. And sometimes those are decisions, from a standpoint of just being prideful. You're an owner, you started something, you don't want to let it go. But at some point, you got to sit back and you got to evaluate the risk. You got to evaluate the risk associated with. And I've seen way too many people lose everything, lose families, lose homes, lose everything by not just making that decision and pivoting out. And I'm never the type of person that want to see people go out of business. It's one of those things where you started a business for a reason. You wanted to pursue the American dream. You wanted the ability to have the independency. But when those things are starting to point against you and you don't have any long-term circumstances that's going to allow you to help sustain yourself, it's very, very difficult. And when I saw carriers that came into the marketplace, 2020, 2021, when their operational costs, their fixed costs were extremely high, and then they were living off of this wave, when we start things tailing off, that was a poor sign. That was a sign telling us that, if that NTI is higher, then your break-even point is higher than that NTI, then that's trouble. That's trouble.
Do you feel like some of those carriers that entered the industry in 2021, should they have just maybe stuck to being a company driver, or like what could have kind of prevented the situation we're seeing right now?
I'm never gonna say that. One of the things I will say that when you get into business, it's just like this. Business is hard, right? Business has cycles. Trucking is no different. Trucking is a business, and when you insert yourself into a business, you got to make sure that you got to have capital, right? The thing about the trucking industry, especially for a small guy, it is capital heavy. It is capital heavy. And if you're not prepared for that and you don't have the resources available, you don't understand the business, then maybe you need to just fall back for a little bit. Give yourself the opportunity to learn the industry, get connected, understand how things work, and then insert yourself into it at the point where it's comfortable for you. But I think what happened is that we had social media. Social media put out the opportunity to make millions and millions of dollars a month as a truck driver. And I think that unfortunately you saw a lot of folks getting into the wave and thinking that this wave was going to last forever. And we all know that those folks that's been in this industry, myself, I've been in it going on 24 years, they come and they go. The cycle goes up and it comes down. It always does that. And you just have to be prepared on both sides.
Should carriers, owner-operators, obviously a lot of what you have to do as a small carrier is be more dependent on that spot market. Is there like a balance that you recommend striking, or do you think that carriers should be a little more hesitant about working with the spot market, or just purely being a broker, load board type of carrier?
Understanding the spot market is important, and understanding as a carrier the dynamics and the levels of spot market activity. When I looked at the spot market myself, the spot market was really more of a backhaul marketplace, right? We focus on getting your directs out, and then your spot market brings you back into your head haul market. A lot of carriers don't understand the importance of balance of that. They'll get into the industry and they'll rely solely on the spot market. And there's different levels of the spot market, right? So you got the spot market load board, and you got spot to broker, and then you got carrier direct. And a lot of carriers focus so much on just spot market, spot market, spot market. God forbid DAT or truck stop goes down, and all of a sudden everybody's in a panic. You got to build relationships, and building those relationships with brokers and building those relationships with small town shippers and things like that are the ones that can get you in the dynamic that you need to be. But if you rely heavily on the spot market load board, and that's the only thing that you rely on, you're going to ride the curve. You're going to ride the wave. And then what we've seen in the last couple of years, we've seen that wave come crashing down. And unfortunately, when you have that reliance upon that spot market, especially on that load board side, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Load boards are easy. Load boards, I just pull my phone out, I book a load, and it makes it easy. But with easy, sometimes you got to deal with the pros and cons of easy, and building relationships with with brokers sometimes for some folks is hard. You know, building relationships with small shippers are hard. But if you want to be successful in this business, it's just like entrepreneurship. You got to be comfortable with doing hard things. It's just, any success comes with hard things. And a lot of people, and I'm not going to say that, you know, just from a general stance, but if you want to be successful in life, you got to be comfortable with just doing the hard things. And it goes with everything.
Is when we talked maybe a month or so ago about this conversation we're
Yeah.
having now,
Yeah.
you talked a little bit about why it's important to actually just like go to coffee with small businesses in your area.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that process
Yeah.
works? Or
Yeah. I call it the Green Mile, right? You look at, if your company is based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and you're a small town carrier, you know, the thing that would strike you is if you go on Google and you type in Google distributor or manufacturer, you'll be surprised to see the amount of shippers and manufacturers in that particular area. And you got large carriers that deal with large enterprise shippers. You're not going to get the Kimberly-Clarks. You're not going to get the Procter & Gamble's. But I might get Rachel's T-shirt company that's shipping out 2 loads a week. I might be able to connect directly with her. And you got to remember, you don't want to be most people, because if you think in the mentality of most people, then you're going to have the results of most people. But if you be very, very intentional about building relationships and going to networking events and really, really understanding the needs of the folks that are in your area, I might connect with a small town shipper just out and about in my networking. And then being able to think about the standpoint of that some small carriers and small shippers want to do business with small business, right? You might ship T-shirts and you might say, hey, you know what? I want to be in an area where if there's an issue with one of my shipments, I can pick the phone up and I can call Adam, or maybe I can meet him at Starbucks and let's tell him about my future plans, because me as a carrier and you as a shipper, I can help you grow just as much as you can help me grow. And I think the most important about that is that people have to understand that this industry has always been based on relationships. It's always been a relationships-based business. And now, because social media is so heavy, and folks in this room that we've connected with so much, just from a standpoint of being connected on social media, you got to take that as an advantage, and you got to lean on that and build your business off the fact that you're able to connect with anybody at the touch of a finger. And like we talked about, you know, when we were on the phone a couple of weeks ago, as small carriers, you have to get creative, and you have to get creative in doing the hard stuff. And the easy stuff is to say, hey, you know what, is this person's fault? Or, you know, the trucking market is trucking is trucking, man. You know, you get on the highway right now, trucks are going to always run. You know, I remember during the pandemic, everybody was stuck at home, cars were shut down. But you get on 85, you get on 24, you get 75, all you saw is trucks moving down the highway. They're going to be there, you know. But as a small carrier, if you want to really be successful, you got to do the hard things, and you got to get out and network. And it's crazy that the people that you'll run into, you know, you go to the Chamber of Commerce, make yourself known there. You go to the SBA, you know, you make yourself known there. You go around town and join these small business mixers. It's amazing the connections that you can absolutely make that can change your business. And to be honest with you, all it takes is one relationship. All it takes is one conversation. All it takes is one connection. And that one connection can set you and your business on a different plateau.
I mean, it makes sense, because it's funny you mentioned T-shirts, because I actually worked at a T-shirt warehouse in college, randomly enough, and I do feel like, you know, that was a small business. It was just a small printing place, really, in Michigan. And, you know, if you're a small business, maybe you don't want to deal with, you know, apps and like, oh, a new person coming in every day. You want to just like, you know, that's the guy, that's the gal who comes in every day. That's our truck driver. Like, we don't employ them, but you know, we see them every day. We know them. We know their families. You know, things like this. And it's just, it seems like you're kind of suggesting that we move away from, you know, apps and like, you know, checking the phone and checking the laptop, and it's kind of more like connecting with people and kind of using the apps as well as maybe a stopgap or something.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, over time, we forgot about people.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about the word and the statement social distance, we really become socially distant. We forgot about the fact of connecting and establishing connections and building relationships with people, because it's so easy to open up my phone and just do everything on my phone. I don't need to talk to Rachel. I can just send her a text.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to go back, do the hard stuff. You know, because realistically, when you build a business, and this is entrepreneurship 101, you can't build a business app only. At some point, you got to sit down, you got to roll your sleeves up, and you got to shake your hands with somebody and tell them exactly what you do. If I come into Chattanooga, Tennessee, and you operate a small trucking company in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and you don't know the shippers and manufacturers in your area, you have no idea who they were. If I say, hey, who's ABC Widgets? Well, I don't know. That's a problem because they need to know you. And regardless of whether or not they can do business with you or whatever, they need to know Rachel's Trucking. They need to know what you stand for. They need to know they need to know that you have a footprint in the business. And then I see a lot of owner-operators and small carriers just take shortcuts. No website, abctrucking@gmail.com, no social media, just kind of flying by the night. It don't work. It don't work anymore. You got to get intentional with your business, and you got to remember business is first, right? Trucking is just a component of it, but you're the CEO of your company. And the CEO of your company, you can't run your business off your apps and your phones all the time. And maybe I'm an old school guy, but maybe not. But at the end of the day, the importance of business one-on-one is understanding the dynamic of building that business, building those relationships. And then, coming to things like this, just being in a room here, as a small carrier and being in the presence of the most brilliant people in freight to where you can actually learn and you can take one or two things away that can take your business to the next level. It's an investment into your business that there's nothing like it.
Switching gears a little bit, we were talking a little bit about broker transparency while we were waiting to come on stage.
Oh man.
I guess not to
Oh god.
the deep end, but what are kind of your thoughts around that? And
Man, you was gonna
obviously
ask
a controversial topic or topic that people love to talk about for sure.
So I'll say this, and I'll be careful how I say it. Mind your business. And what I mean by mind your business, if you know your numbers, you know what you need, you know what your operational run rate is. If I want to make 20% at the end of year 2024 as a business owner, I know exactly how much I need to operate my business for. And I book a load with you, and that load's paying me $3 a mile. If that was what I wanted, and I got what I want, does it really make a difference on how much you made on it? So when I think about transparency, I think that there are bigger issues in the industry right now. There's conditions. My brothers and sisters in the industry can't go to a shipper or a receiver and use the bathroom. There's parking issues. There's so many other issues that affects the well-being. And you think about, Kevin, he talks about wellness. You think about obesity and things like that are impacting our drivers out there. There's so many bigger fish to fry than knowing how much, and this is my opinion, because that's not going to impact my business, right? I'm going to do what I need to do to run my business. I'm going to make what I need to make, and if I don't, then I move on. At the end of the day, if you choose to use brokers, just like if you choose to use any third party, at the end of the day, there's a cost associated with using a third party. That's the reason. I'm sure, listen, I'm an old guy from South Carolina. I can change oil on my car. I don't want to. And I'm not going to worry about whether or not how much it costs you in order to do that. I just don't want to change the oil in my car.
Yeah.
So I guess, and everybody has their own opinion, and that's fine. And I love the fact that we have the ability to have our own opinions, but it's just not one of the things at the top of the food chart for me. Education needs to be pushed more. We got too many people that's in this business that are owner-operators that don't understand the dynamics of running a business. Compliance, we got so many people that are going out of service. There was 130,000 some drivers that are in the SAP program that are prohibited. And you think about resources. You got owner-operators and small fleet owners right now that have no idea where to go. They have nowhere to turn. They don't have the resources they need to be successful. Those are the things that are more important to me. Those are the things that are going to change the industry for folks. Transparency is something that'll come down the line, but it's not at the top of the food chart for me.
Adam, I feel like we could keep talking for several more hours, but the red light is flashing, so we've got to get out of here. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
I appreciate it. All right.
Big round of applause for those folks right there. Moving on to our next roundtable discussion for today. And we all know that FreightWaves at its core business is data. And Sonar changed the game with real-time updates that show you exactly what's going on in the market. But at the same time, is